So we came up here with the Cub Scouts tonight just so the kids could get an idea of what these meetings are all about. I found that I live on Wall Street down in Loveland, which is most people travel Wall Street that live in this area because it's kind of a thoroughfare to get through out of Loveland and up towards Field Girdle. We've got the high school up there. The reason I didn't prepare anything official, but I found a good time to address the issue of the traffic concerns on that street. I don't know if this is the right forum to do so, but you know, my son is one of my biggest concerns about living there because it's a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone that's not really, I would say, I'm not going to say enforced because I think the police do a really good job of being there when they can, because we do have a lot of streets in this town of Loveland, so it's not like I expect someone to be there all the time, but 25 is not seen very often on that street. We've gone from having 5 kids in that neighborhood about 10 years ago to having 18 children that live on that street, just in a 2-block period from Kiwanis going towards the high school, from Kiwanis to Betty Ray, basically. So the amount of kids there has increased drastically. So has the amount of play with the kids being on the street. And it's always a concern with the speeders that come up and down, and the fact that there are no lines painted on that road. So people get past. I've had my wife has been passed with her left turn signal on the pull in the driveway. She's been passed on the left. I've had it happen to me before. So coming in and out of the driveway can be dangerous as well. Is there any possibilities of looking into better measures to increase safety on that street?
Well, thank you very much for coming this evening and sharing your comments. And I think you have identified the individual who's probably the best first stop on this, and that is the chief and the police department. Wall Street has, for some number of years, been an issue regarding traffic, regarding parking, regarding a whole slew of those issues, because as you rightfully laid out, it's essentially a thoroughfare connecting West Loveland to Rich Road and beyond. So I know that the chief is very responsive, and then the city manager, under his direction, of course, is also the city engineer who works out all the calculations and understands the science of roadways and traffic management. So don't know that there's any silver bullet that any of those would come up with, but I think it's meritorious to bring the issue up. And what I would encourage is remain in contact with Chief Ray and with the city manager.
And we've done that, and I'm not the only person who lives on that street that feels that it's a big concern. So I guess the question is what's the next step to get something done that's going to create a little bit of resolve? For instance, you've got many side streets. I grew up on Shady Crest as a kid. I've lived in this town most of my life. My rule as a kid was I was not allowed to cross Wall Street. So that was a long time ago. It's always been an issue. That was before the high school and new neighborhoods up on the hill. That's when Loveland was very small. So it hasn't gotten any better over the years. There hasn't been any improvement whatsoever. So I'm curious what the city's stance is on what are you doing currently to be proactive?
Well, I suspect that over that period of time, the traffic volumes have quite likely increased, given the fact that the population has. There's no silver bullet sitting at this table, although I don't want to be so presumptuous to speak for my colleagues. If anybody has a immediate solution, feel free to speak up. But the professionals in public safety and in public works are really the ones that need to drill down, and then should there be a need for some kind of a change in traffic regulations, patterns, etc., they would be the ones to come forth and make a recommendation to us. But with that said, I think Councilmember Gross had a comment or question.
I just had a question. Chief Ray, have we ever, I know over where I live is up off of the Orange Corner and over across from the school. And sometimes they put up those speed signs so that people are a little more aware of how fast they're going. And I do know that it does seem to slow the traffic down a little. Have we ever tried that on Wall Street?
Yes, ma'am. We've done that, and we've done that recently. I don't have the specific numbers for you offhand, but I can tell you that it was a little bit higher than we normally see on our residential streets, but that largely is because there's a lot of through traffic on that roadway. We do targeted enforcement when it's warranted after that. Part of the challenge that we found is typically that's a temporary solution. While we're out there doing it, it will affect driver behavior for up to a week or maybe two afterwards, but then people revert right back to what they normally call safe speed, what they normally feel is safe. But we have been addressing Wall Street in particular.
So I had a lot of communication with Chief Zabransky in the past when we first moved into that house on Wall Street, probably for, I'm going to guess, about 5 years. And the response has always been great. I have no complaints there whatsoever. We've had those signs that you're referring to on the telephone pole in front of our driveway. So, and that's the only time that you really see a change. But I can say that, I mean, of course, when you live there, you can think of other alternatives that can happen, like a stop sign on the corner of Shady Crest and Wall Street, just to kind of regulate traffic as it flows through. That's what I was making the mention about numerous side streets. A couple stop signs on that road would force people to slow down. Coming down off the hill from the high school where it's 35 miles an hour, it continues 35. People travel a lot of times 10 miles an hour or so over the speed limit, which Chief Zabransky pointed out to me years ago. And it just, so now you're talking almost 45 miles an hour coming past the house on a regular basis and a speed limit of 25. So I really just wanted to bring it up. I wanted my son to see that you could actually voice your concerns without just always grumbling about it behind the scenes, because I do that daily. And then ask just where do I go from here? I know I can rely on the police department, but as far as public planning or I guess the engineering aspect of it with stop signs or other alternative measures, where do I go from here?
Yeah, well, I'd start with the city manager because they're all under his umbrella. Police, city engineering, public works, fire, etc. So, you know, they're creative and problem-solving oriented people. But that said, remember they are also constrained by statutes and by various rules and regulations. So what we may see intuitively as a potential solution may from a traffic management, may from a traffic regulatory, may from an engineering, et cetera standpoint, just may not be feasible, permissible, or allowable. So, but again, these are the individuals, and I think you spoke volumes on their behalf by indicating that your past experience with them is that they have been responsive and open. So I'd continue that dialogue. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I say anything?
No, I just wanted to point out I would, from the technical side, I meet with the city engineer. I will get in touch with her tomorrow. We also currently have a professional traffic planner who's been doing some work for the city in the downtown district, who may offer us another look at it from her eyes. But I will get with Cindy in the morning. Cindy Kloppenstein's our city engineer. And I will also reach out to Liz, we're doing a pretty significant traffic planning study this summer down in downtown. And she's a local resident, which is one of the benefits, to get in touch with her to see if she would mind giving it a look from from a professional side. So if you could just have your contact information, I'll let you know how it's going.
I got his contact over here today. So Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, we are.